Yeah. So, welcome everyone to the Macmillan Life Skills Hangout.
Yay!
Round of applause.
Hey,
We've
good.
got the technology
Thanks,
working today,
Nicole.
so that's a start. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you made it here. Just to give you a brief intro, I'm Henry. We, I think, all met at the online conference back in November, so it's good to see you again. But today we're talking about life skills, which has been our campaign throughout 2014 so far. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've seen some of the resources online that Carol's been working so hard to put together. And the point behind today is just to get your thoughts and exchange ideas on the topic of life skills and basically what you'd like to see from us throughout the rest of the year and going into 2015 too, in terms of downloads, activities, that kind of thing, so that we can bring you more of what you need in the classroom. And we've got Carol with us here today, who's very kindly given up some of her time and did so last week as well, to talk to you about this, as she's the head of product marketing. So Carol is the brains behind Life Skills. So you're very lucky to have her with you today for the next hour or so you can pick her brains and feed back to her on what you've thought so far of the things that we've been bringing out so far this year. So Carol, do you want to just say a quick few words to get us started, and maybe hopefully a few others will join in while you're talking too, if we're lucky?
Okay, lovely to meet you both. As you said, I had quick glimmers of you last week as you kept appearing and disappearing, but it's nice to be able to talk to you today. About me, been in ELT now for getting on for 20-some years, was a teacher, a primary school teacher in the UK first, then I went overseas and taught all ages in Japan for 6 years, then first on the JET program, then with the YMCA. I was head teacher at the YMCA, the biggest YMCA in Western Japan, and then I was recruited as an editor for a competitor. I worked on several courses then. I then got moved into being an international teacher trainer, which I did for 6 years and loved. And then more recently worked back in the UK developing different teacher training materials. Then got moved into marketing and was very, very lucky last September to come and work here at Macmillan, which was really something I'd greatly hoped to do, and I was very lucky to achieve it. So when I took over the fledgling idea of the Life Skills campaign, it was really based on what was coming through from a lot of the sessions, a lot of the conferences, and happening since the big crash, where we all know that we're finding it harder to get students placed in work, and we also know that those graduates that are out there are finding it harder to find work as well. So it doesn't matter whether you're going straight from school or from university, there's a problem. But also, having worked in primary, we're also seeing more and more students who can't communicate in the way that we would have expected them to, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So these life skills or soft skills or 21st century skills aren't just essential in the workplace, they're getting more important in the classroom. And we did a little bit of research, and it seemed to be cropping up at lots of conferences and all the rest of it. Jonathan, it's lovely that you've been able to join us. Hopefully you'll be able to listen and we'll see your picture soon. But basically the life skills thing just started, and it was a bit of a, I think the stuff we're doing is really great and I think you're going to like it. How's it going to feature in the market? And so we're almost 6 months into the campaign, and so far I think it's done quite well, but I'm keen to hear from you about what you've really enjoyed most about the Life Skills campaign. So I don't know if you prefer me to nominate names or if you just want to jump in. With so few of us, I think you can just jump in. So what have you enjoyed most about the Life Skills campaign so far?
Okay. Neves, you being the lady there.
Oh, do you want me to jump in?
Beside Carol, if it is okay with Carol and Harry.
Yeah, go ahead, go on, Dre.
No, I'm asking Neves as
Okay.
the lady on this end of the communication if she'd like to jump in.
Okay,
Come on,
thank you.
Davis.
Thank you, Andre. While you drink your cup of tea. All right, basically, I've been, what's the word? I've been using some of the material that's in the life skills, also because with, I also teach a project-based English twice a year at the high schools, and normally I do 4th and 5th years, which is the second last and final years of high school, and we prepare the students for their first certificate, Cambridge First Certificate exam. Now, the project not only is just preparation for the exam, but it also asks us teachers to create a little package around it, teaching the students a little bit about life skills in English rather than life skills in Italian. So it helps the students to be able to use some of these skills, life skills, in English in the future when they go and maybe work in situations that they may need to speak English. The one that I used a couple of times was the self-awareness one, which I thought was really important because high school students tend to get lost in what's that word? Intercultural differences, especially recently because we've had a lot of mixed cultures in the country areas of Italy. The cities are more used to cross cultures at school, but we were quite cushioned from this in this area. The last 10 years has seen an upsurge of Macedonians, Albanians, Romanians, even a little bit of Greeks, not many, but some, and some English as well. People coming into the school system, or young students, and so the Italians have had the Italian students in general have had a problem understanding and communicating with these other cultures. So that's why I think things like the self-awareness one was really good, because it helped the students to discuss, put on out in the open things about themselves and see how different they were one to the other. That was my brief experience, and I think life skills needs to do that. That's what I'm looking for when I want to teach life skills. I want them to be able to use skills that they are going to use in the future, that they are going to need to use to be able to communicate, converse with others, etc.
Okay. What about you, Andre? Have you seen any of the life skills materials being used, or have you taken them out and used them with then teacher training or anything?
Both teacher training and in the classroom. But before tossing resource names out of all those many and beautiful that you people have developed, I mean, like, give you a little bit of a context among from us here in Venezuela. In general, what happens about life skills in our country is that universities design curriculum using them since 7 years ago approximately. There's more awareness of life skills among human resource professionals with master degrees, not necessarily among teachers. They have been taught in their teacher training what life skills are, but they have been a little too theoretical about how to use them, not only for the subject, but also to transfer skills. The advantage of these is that all these resources you people have prepared is that they've given teachers an opportunity to have a practical take on how to use them, considering that it was not for us easy to cover schools face-to-face in Venezuela the last few months for reasons known worldwide. Using our mailing list to send different links to the life skills has been very good. That's a little about the context. They've liked the videos for reasons I may elaborate on in later, and they like the PDFs pretty much because instead of printing them and having problems with the school administrators and resources, etc., they send them to students over mailing lists, or they post them in their VLEs or school websites. That's a little about the context and what has happened to the kinds of resources, in this case PDFs, here with us in Venezuela.
Cool. I just noticed that the gentleman who tried to join us last week is trying to get on as well. So, Mudir, I hope you can hear us.
Yeah. Hi, Mudir.
Hi.
Mudir?
It looks like he may just be setting up his machine. So hopefully he'll be with us shortly.
Mm-hmm.
We had a Sarah join us as well for a second. I wonder where she's got there.
Sarah, yeah.
Hello, my dear. Your tummy looks lovely.
He's written a chat message. Oh. Hey.
Hi, my dear. Are we
Hello.
pronouncing your right name correctly?
Okay. Mundir, does your microphone work? Oh, you're fixing it. Okay, great. And Sarah's with us as well.
Hello, Sarah. You're slightly blurry, but we can see you trying to get in focus.
Tell us a bit about yourselves both, where you're from and what you teach.
Nieves. Hi. Nieves.
Hi, Andres. But are they Sarah and Mundir? We're waiting for them to talk, no?
Mm-hmm.
But they're getting ready.
We can see you smiling, Sarah, so we know you can hear us. It's just you're not saying anything to us yet.
Sarah's from Italy. I am too, Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yay!
Yay!
Definitely
Welcome,
not
Sarah.
Italian.
Can you hear me?
We can see you.
And we can hear you. You're slightly blurry.
Yeah, a touch, but
The camera's very bad. Can you hear me though?
Yes.
A
yeah.
little better now, yes.
Whereabouts in Italy are you, Sarah?
Yeah, from Polimpopoli. Polimpopoli, Napoli, Cesena, Bologna, Ravenna.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And what
So-
age of students do you teach?
Mostly adults, mostly adults. In companies mostly. I'm not really sure what's going on. I've never done one of these before.
No worries. What's happening is, as you can see in the bottom of your screen, hopefully you've got little pictures of all the people who are currently in the Hangout. Do you have that?
Yeah.
If you notice, when you speak, your picture will go black, and as you speak, it picks up the fact that you're talking, and it will project you onto the big screen so we can all see you. Then when you shut up, it will just stay on you until somebody else speaks. So, for example, I'm speaking now, and if Nevis cuts in and says
Hello.
something, then
I'm
what it'll do
cutting
is it'll
in.
go to her.
Okay, they're cutting in, cutting in.
So, Sarah, I'll officially welcome you. I'm Henry, and Carol, who you've just been talking to there, is someone else who works for Macmillan too. And we're hosting this Hangout today to get your thoughts and ideas on our life skills resources, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It's a campaign we've been running throughout the year. I'll share the link with you shortly in the chat box. And if you've been using them with your students at all during your teaching, then we'd love to hear your thoughts. But we're sort of more generally also discussing life skills in general and its importance in the classroom these days. So feel free to chip in. It's great to hear what you have to say, because then we'll use that and go away and use the information and your ideas to sort of inform what we do next year as well. And that's the general idea behind today.
So my first question was, we know that lots and lots of the things have been downloaded. I just asked Neves, how was she using, or what did she find the most useful of the things that we put up so far in the first 6 months? So maybe if I can ask you, Sarah, have you had a chance to use anything from the life skills, and if so, what was the most useful thing and why?
Well, I haven't actually used anything. I've seen them. I've seen the worksheets on the One Stop English site that I use. But I haven't actually used anything because I don't know. I don't really. I have seen.
That's not a problem. What about you, Mudir? Have you managed to use anything yet, or have you just been looking at the content and wondering what it's all about?
Mundir probably needs to type, I
Type.
think. So we'll give him a few seconds. It's like he's writing something. Yeah.
You're still trying to get to know more about it. That's great. Have you been able to go on the website and see the every 2 weeks the items? Don't worry about the mic. Have you all got the text chat box open on the side? You can see what Mudir is writing to us then as well. Right, Neves.
And maybe for the archived Hangout, once the live webcast is over, Henry and Carol would like to read what Mundir is letting us know via chat box.
Yeah, because that won't be saved. So.
No. What Mudir is saying, he's based in Morocco, and it's lovely that he's joined us again this week. He said he's still trying to get to know more about the life skills thing. So hopefully, and he's really sorry. It doesn't matter, my dear. It's lovely to have you here. We can see you smiling. We can see live footage of you, and there's a smile to prove it. But we'll read out the questions. So Nevis has spoken about what she's done with one of the lessons. She's used a self-awareness lesson. It's gone really well. Sarah's seen the stuff but hasn't used it yet. And Andre was saying that the thing he liked was that the university designs their curriculum around life skills, but teachers in Venezuela, which is where he's based, are finding the practical ideas of using the things in class really helpful, so they can actually use the ideas that we're giving them, rather than be given a curriculum that's just based about it. So for 2014, we sent out a calendar with when the web mail-outs were going to go and what the theme was per month. And I guess my question, and I'll start with Sarah first, is do you think having a calendar for 2015 is a good idea? And if so, do you have any idea of any sort of themes or topics you'd like us to cover?
I don't generally work on a calendar. I'm more sort of improvising. I think what I saw from your ones from last time was quite interesting. The reason I didn't use them was they're generally quite high levels, I think. And my students push to a level, majority elementary students.
Can I just confirm that's elementary level for adults you'd like to see more materials for, or elementary for teens, or?
The intermediate adults is probably the most popular.
Okay, going ladies next. Nevis, can I ask you for any feedback on the calendar idea and the themes and what you might like to sort of see included on that for 2015?
Oh, Neves?
Oh, sorry, I lost you for a minute.
Oh, okay, no worries.
You've just come back again. Okay, so yes, okay. Basically, I think a calendar, any sort of calendar, which would be Google connected calendar, would be even better.
Ooh.
But
fancy, yeah.
well, for example, anyone that has like a Gmail account, and if you could set up like a calendar with and send out the calendar with the issue dates of the new worksheets, etc., it would mean that it would magically pop up on our own calendars, like my calendar on Gmail, for example, because I use that, and which, like the Hangout, when I said yes on the Google page, on the Google Hangout page, it said yes, I'm coming, it was automatically added to my calendar, which is great, which means that I can't forget. Yeah, so I think that I think it is important that a calendar does come out with an issue of the worksheets. I think also it's important that maybe some of us teachers give you some ideas of the types of life skills we'd like to see discussed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I've been thinking about these last few days, since last week, and thinking, what are some other topics that I'd like to see covered? Maybe I'd like to see something like, I don't know, using the internet safely.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching students actually how to use internet. That, to me, is an important life skill. But then that's just one of the things. I'm just thinking that maybe there should be a little bit more feedback from teachers relating to the kinds of things that we think would be important for our students to discuss.
Absolutely, Nevis. This is the main goal I've got to get out of today. I was hoping that if you can type in what you'd like to see, that's great if you're not able to communicate with us, but I'm trying to think up a whole year's worth of ideas, and I'd much rather have your input. It'd be really great to find out what teachers actually would like to see. And I've got a weird M thing flashing in the centre of my screen, Henry. Oh, it's gone now.
Has it gone? Okay.
So there's a couple of ideas from Nevis. She'd like to see using the internet safely and teaching students how to use the internet. And Sarah, I noticed you said that you agreed with the idea of the Google account pop-ups. Madeira, is there anything, if you'd like to type, I'll read out to everybody what you type. Have you had any thoughts about ideas you'd like us to cover? Neves has just included another one in text type, which says she'd like to see something on teamwork.
Okay, Mudir has just typed.
Right, Madeira's just typed. He hasn't got any concrete ideas at the moment. He's still getting to know about the materials and how he can possibly benefit from them. Okay. Andre, have you got some suggestions you'd like to suggest for life skills themes? I noticed you've just typed one. Do you want to take over the mic?
Yes. Well, I was waiting for everybody to take their chance and turn on the mic. Well, organizational skills, as I've typed, things that have to do maybe further elaborating on respect and cooperation and synergy, synergizing the ability to look at things and find win-win options to continue to work together or cooperate. I think that along with organizational skills and more on cooperation or respect, everything that has to do with work ethics, initiative, entrepreneurship could be, I'm just tossing words, but could be, once they are categorized in right terms, have been fun for them, possible ideas for next life skills in 2015, hopefully.
Okay. I think you're right. I think the main thing, can I just confirm, for all of you, the level of the items is all right, with the exception of Sarah, who said she wanted more pre-intermediate. Do you find that the way that the pitch of the actual lessons is all right? It's simply having a wider variety of things to do. Neves, you're nodding. Is that so? The actual level's okay. It's just having more variety, covering more aspects like organisation and using the internet, things like that.
Well, I think that sometimes when I use material like I've used in the past with Macmillan, what happens is if I find that the level is too high or too low, I readapt it to the level that I want it to get it at. So I don't necessarily use the worksheet per se from A to Z. I use some of the ideas, and then if there's like for example, in the last one I used, there was an actual like jigsaw puzzle or something, I can't remember, that the students had to work with, and I printed that out for them and got them to use that. I thought that was a good idea. But where I find that maybe if the material is is unsuited, whether it's too high or too low or not the right level, I use the body of the idea and then I add to it. Do you know what I mean? I always try and not modify it, but try to add things to it or make it more interesting, or find maybe even what I did last time. I think I found a YouTube video that sort of went with it, a little film about love and respect. A cartoon type thing, I can't remember, but it was beautiful. I had the students crying over it. So it was just, I think what we teachers need to do is have some ideas, which is great, from the Macmillan website, like the life skills, and that's a great springboard. So I don't necessarily think that it's important that you have to concentrate on bringing it down a level or bringing it up a level. I think that as a teacher, we're able to do that ourselves. We shouldn't have to be spoon-fed all the time, although it's fun sometimes. But I think in this modern era, we need to get away from using too much standardized material and start to look at how we can use the material that's available and adapt it to the people that we have in the classroom.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's fine with me. Sarah, Mudir, Andre, do you agree with what Neves has just said?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Sarah?
Yeah, I do adapt stuff as well. I don't expect to have the thing ready made, obviously, but if you have a too high a level, it's always difficult to make it, lock down.
And Mudir has said he agrees totally with you, Neves. He agrees with what you're saying. So, yeah, thumbs up. So,
yeah.
it seems
Yes, teachers. Carol.
Andre, did you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, it's good for teachers to. The point is, I felt that Carol was trying to brush up an idea. Yes, it is good for teachers to have, to understand and feel that they have the power and discretionality to adapt and grade the materials I've typed in the chat box. Perhaps, Carol, something you would like to consider is preparing guidelines, a resource on how to use the life skills resources. If we talk about, for example, Brainwave and its teacher development program, there is a how-to guide on how to use the different modules. And perhaps you would like to do something like that for 2015 for teachers to understand the framework and the freedom that they've got to adapt, to change things, to grade level, etc., etc.
It's funny, Andre, that you typed, because Neves and I had a small conversation a little while ago, and one of the things that came up, not so much about guidelines on how to use life skills, but one of the things that we're looking for is how you can assess life skills, and that's a really key thing. One of the writers that I've been very, very fortunate to work with since February is a lady called Emma Sue Prince. If you came to the webinar that we had for life skills on the 14th of May, she was the first speaker. And she teaches a life skills course that's fully accredited at the University of Roehampton. And so she's been fantastic. And one of the things we're looking at for next year is she's actually going to try and develop, because it's quite difficult to assess life skills if it's not your basic numeracy, literacy skills for your K-12s age group. Beyond that, there isn't anything that says, this is an idea that says students might have negotiation skills that they're actually quite good at, or they've got time management skills that are fairly reasonable. There's nothing out there. So one of the things I'm going to hopefully have for next year will be some idea of how we can try and assess the skills that we're trying to teach to students, and say, look, your organisational and your people leadership skills are really strong, but have you thought about looking at developing more on this side? So it won't be, you can't mark people out of 10, but it might give teachers a little bit more of a way to say to students, in your overall development, here's where you've got strengths, and here's areas which I'd look at trying to work on a little bit more, because at an interview this might not be your best way to present something. So that's one of the things we're looking at. I'm just going to take a moment so I can read something, because there's been quite a lot of text chat and I don't want to miss a point, so just give me a second to read.
Yeah, Mundir's made a comment, Carol, which I think we should pick up on.
Yeah, Mundir has written, my belief is that adapting existing materials can lead to fruitful results with the students. What I think is that the learners need to make steps forward with
their brains.
With their brains instead. Yep. Sorry, I've got a space bit. With their brains. It keeps jumping up. Hold on.
Instead of downgrading materials to their levels of proficiency, is what I have.
Yeah.
Now we can see Mundir live. Perhaps his mic is also on.
I think it's just got headphones, but yeah, you're right. It stopped scrolling up now, so I can read it better. So thank you for sharing that, Mundir. So you think that adaptive material is something you can do yourselves?
Okay.
Okay. Yes, you use a desktop computer. Yes, we noticed. Don't worry about it. I think preparing guidelines was something to do. Would printed guidelines be more helpful to you, or would videos of a teacher showing how to use the materials be more useful to you? Neves?
Getting a thumbs up from Neves.
Yeah, no, well, I was just saying, yes, I totally agree. I think video tutorials is the way to go. You know Russell Stannard, obviously, don't you? Yes, of course you would. I'm getting a slow connection. He said, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just getting a very slow connection. I think it went all blurry. Anyway, basically, Russell Stannard says that video tutorials is a way for teachers to understand and be able to get their message across much better. So I started playing around with this idea, and I've actually done a lot of video tutorials for my students, which I just put up on the Google Drive and get them to download or watch, and I use like a 10-15 minute video which I make using Screencast-O-Matic, which is free. I think video tutorials is definitely a good way to go. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. I'm keen on video tutorials because I consider myself a digital immigrant with not a strong accent, and I can work my way around ed tech, etc. But thinking about the generational gap and trying to help teachers transfer their personal digital skills into the teaching realm, perhaps it would be good to have video tutorials not only with a class but with the educational cycle. In other words, screenshots or video captures of planning, then giving the class, then assessing with both live audio but also narrator leading them through the process. As for the video tutorial, and for those teachers who are not that keen on video, that video tutorial could be linked to a PDF guide. Okay, I would use the former, but I understand that some teachers would need the latter and would like it better. And talking about assessing, I think it's very interesting that you, Carol, and that author are working on coming up with ideas to assess life skills. Human resources as a specialty gives us many tools so that we can assess life skills. Rubrics, surveys, interviews, they use that to assess and measure personnel's development as professionals. And we can adapt those for ELT with life skills. Perhaps that is part of the ideas you ladies are coming up with and thinking of.
It is. Part of what we're thinking as well, though, is a lot of HR stuff is this is where you are now and this is why you might be good for the role. We're looking at it possibly from the idea of this is where your strengths are and here's how you can keep on developing them, because usually with a lot of the HR stuff it tends to be more evaluative than sort of assessing and moving forward. But it's something that I need to talk to this lady further about, because I'm hoping we can glean some of the stuff she's using at the University of Roehampton to work on that. Can I just pull Sarah into the conversation here? Sarah, what do you feel about the idea of having teacher training videos or some sort of guidelines for using the actual materials?
Definitely videos are easier, quicker for us. Yeah. Everything's clear and simple on the video.
Okay. And what about you, Madhu? Do you think videos would be helpful, or do you think that something printed or in a PDF form is more accessible? What's your opinion? And we'll give you a second to type. Okay, I think I need to find a video technician and get some videoing done.
You've got Henry.
Henry is just an amazing asset, what can I tell you? So, one of the other things that I was
funny videos in a relevant way. He does.
He does great videos. So videos is something that actually has come up. We also spoke to the Macmillan staff and said, what over the regions and over the markets, what do you want? And they all came up with videos as well. So you'll be pleased to know I've already set some budget aside for that. But also the other thing that I wanted to say was, what sort of content should be in there? So teacher training videos is one. Are academic articles about life skills helpful? Or are academic articles dull and boring? Should I not waste my time? There you go. There's an open question. If you'd like to type, or if somebody wants to talk, academic articles, yes, no, don't care. Go on, be honest.
No.
Dull and boring. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh. Okay, about academic articles and life skills, there's been a plenty around in my market. Teachers find them in many journals, and perhaps rather than academic articles, how-to articles would be good, mostly for elementary and high school teachers, so that they can take all the scholarly stuff that they have been reading for years and see ways to make it practical in the classroom.
Okay. News, you wrote yes. Was that yes, academic articles would be brilliant, or yes, they'd be boring and dull?
Oh no, not boring.
I love them. But that's me.
Sorry, Neves, you were saying?
No, I said yes, they are positive for me. Definitely not boring.
Okay. So maybe we should include a few of those. Madira's just written in, I'd like to get my hands on some academic articles if they are meant for use with adult learners. If my understanding of what you mean by academic skills is correct. There's both. There's articles that teachers may wish to read because they're not clear about life skills. I know some markets are very strongly promoting life skills. For other markets, it's a bit of a new thing and teachers are like, what exactly are they? So there's that side of life skills. And then there's the other idea about if you've got more upper intermediate and advanced students, perhaps they'd like to read more about life skills in a bigger context. Should we then make some of the things that we do articles in that sense, so they understand about where life skills are going and what the experts are saying, and then you do a lesson plan on them. So there's two bites of the cherry there. So I think what it's saying is, so we've got people like Dr. Kagan, we've got this lady Emma Sue Prince, who are both professional life skills teachers. And obviously I'm constantly looking at what's coming up in the media that's got life skills. Are there any speakers or anything you've heard of that you think we should be approaching and including?
Interesting question.
Yeah, you see?
Yes.
It's a
yes.
real open Google thing.
Yes.
So, Andre?
Okay, now you got me thinking. You really did. Okay, about authors or experts or life skills categories. Um, Maybe for teenagers and young adults, you would like to um, go back to Mariela's insights, from the Mind series as a series developer, because many of our categories of life skills are very flexible and useful to many respects and at several educational levels, not only at home. Now, for ESPN professionals, perhaps you would like to go back and have a second look at the OECD's categories, because they are good for graduate students and undergraduate students going to labor markets, which is, as I understand, one of the concerns that originated your interest and initiative in launching the series of resources. Perhaps Mariela Hill's categories for the Mind series, or OECD's categories and lists of skills, talking about agencies or multilateral organizations or authors or scholars are the ones that you might consider tapping into.
Okay. Nevis has just typed in, interesting question. Academic articles are important for us teachers to keep up with what's happening, but it's also important for our CAE students who need to read higher levels of written English. That was actually my thought. You're spot on, Nevis, is what I'm thinking. And then Sarah's written, my big thing is to get the students talking, activities that promote discussion. I think this is one of the things, I think, with the academic articles, if they become too highbrow, they're dull. But if they're temptingly put in front of students, there's a very good chance you might get some very good discussions, especially if they're quite confrontational. Yeah, life skills. This is the main reason behind most of if you notice, most of the e-lessons have they're not weighted totally for speaking, but they're definitely lots and lots of participatory things. Another question was, what about the for fun activities? We do a different for fun that's supposed to be lighter. An idea is a gap fill or something. Are they of any use, or in your opinion, am I just wasting my time?
No, I think one thing that
Sorry, Sarah, can you just repeat that?
I think fun lessons are always good, and that gets the students interested, and it livens up a dull point. It's always good to have some fun.
Thank you, Sarah.
It's talking again.
Yes, please keep on preparing them for the higher grades of elementary school or lower secondary. These fun activities have been good among us in our market, so that students can be in touch with life skills, start developing life skills. In this way, teachers have found them to be approachable for them and for their students. I mean, infographics are good, academic articles are good, higher level lessons or more serious lessons are good, but please keep the fun activities. They do have an audience.
Brilliant. Madeira, have you had a chance to see any of the for fun activities? They're really just, you can use them as 5-minute fillers, warm-ups, wrap-ups, something for the quick students to finish and do for fun. Have you had a chance to see those yet? Right. That's good to hear.
I don't think Sarah heard you.
Oh, Sarah said pair work crosswords are always great. And Mundir has said that he would make use of fun activities, but importantly, it depends on the outcome that you're aiming to get from those. So for your students, ultimately.
Cool. Great. Okay, so maybe when I do the fun activities, I should more highlight what the outcomes would be. Usually it's a vocabulary, a grammar, or an interactive one, but that's worth me bearing in mind, Henry. So you can make sure I do it. I'm talking this way because Henry's sitting across from me.
We can see each other through the glass.
Right. Okay. It's not sitting outside, by the way. It just has to be glass between.
Yeah.
Right. One other question I had, because I sort of wanted to have some points to go through, otherwise we all sit there looking into space. We wondered about doing some simple PDF downloadables, like posters or a log diary for students to write in, or more infographics. And I'm very conscious when I was teaching abroad that I didn't have a colour printer, and it cost me a fortune to go and photocopy stuff down the 7-Eleven. So do you want more? Do you think more photocopyable PDFs is a good idea? And if so, what sort of thing would you like us to think about adding to the life skills bank that you could photocopy? Neves has said not particularly applicable for her, which is fine. Sarah, how do you feel about downloadable PDFs?
Well, I think you need the main part on the PDF, yeah, but not all. Otherwise, as you said, it does cost a fortune to get it all printed out, and not always possible. But I think the main part of the lesson needs to be on PDF, so otherwise you have nothing to give to the students, and they have nothing to take home. And
yeah, that's good. So as is fine. You don't need heaps more stuff that's printable. Mudir, what about yourself? Would you like more PDF type things, or? Madeira said that online activities would be better. That's fine. That's great. So maybe it's something we might possibly give one a little try around April time and see.
A life skills hangout for students.
Yeah, good idea.
Possibility, yeah.
Okay, I don't want to put you, Henry, on the spot, but you guys people give it a thought.
Oh, Henry's got nothing to do all the time.
Yeah.
It's more work. Come on.
Exactly.
Oh, we all want to see more Henry.
Yeah.
About the kinds of materials, videos are very good for teachers in their case as a development, because they usually have read these scholarly articles on, or they have been taught about life skills and teacher training universities. But listening to people from other walks of life, from other professions, give their take on life skills is something that has been good for them in my market. So videos are usually better, in our case, for teachers, and they use them for development, not necessarily in class. Perhaps some private schools have students watch the videos and then they discuss. And PDFs is what they use the most, because instead of making copies of them and having problems with, the photocopier, the people in charge of photocopies and this, what they do is that they distribute them, as I said earlier, through VLEs and through their teacher through the school websites or teacher mailing lists. This is the way they use the different kinds of categories, and I do find PDFs a format that they can continue to use, and they would like to see more of.
Yeah, I think PDFs are just global, aren't they? It doesn't matter where you work. At least you can print a PDF off and then copy it if you need to. So. And we notice it, if you notice the text chat between Sarah and Neves at the moment, it's about the difference in technical ability both between teachers and students. And I think this is one of the things we're trying to always go for the middle course with the life skills, which means that the extremes are getting missed out. They're very tech savvy, and we're not even on the computer are missed out, but we're trying to just offer the broadest coverage. So I appreciate that it's never going to be perfect. So, but more video films of celebrities. Did you like the celebrities we've had this year? Did you find they were long enough? Did you feel they were in depth enough? We tried to keep it general, but are we being too general with the type of people? We've had Chris Hadfield, Adrian Horn, Evan Grant, Rosie Stander. I'm missing one, can't remember who. But do you feel that they're acceptable, the videos that we've sent?
Did you do one on One Direction, or am I getting confused now with it?
No, I haven't had a chance to meet One Direction, but I'll tell my boss, Neves, that you said I should go and hang out with One Direction for the life skills.
No, it must have been someone else, one of the other competitors that did it. Sorry. Anyway, I was going to say that was good because I was in the classroom when that was done, and it was quite. The young 14-year-olds really fell head over heels with that. I think it's important that when we talk about using VIPs or stars or whatever, that they are what the younger generation are into, and it has to be at their level. Do you know what I mean? So it has to come in also with the kinds of things that they want to hear discussed, like, I don't know, girly and boysy things, like do they have, what type of car do they drive, or where do they go out on Saturday nights, and what music do they listen to when they're at home, or what do they like eating. I think it has to be at their level rather than get too technical. If we use it at high schools, the material needs to be adaptable to. Am I getting off the wrong track here? Andres, what do you think?
Oh, I got lost because I was talking something about technology. Would you give me a summary of your idea again so I can elaborate on it? No, you can. Okay, sorry. Neves, would you give me that little hand and then I'll elaborate on it?
No, it's okay. Your expression while I was talking was had me worried, so don't worry about it. But if you were talking about technology, I'm all keen on getting back to technology because one thing, most high schools, and now I live in a provincial town here in Italy, and all high schools that I know of that do languages have a language laboratory, which is normally one computer per student in the language lab, and with a control system run by the teacher that we can also run one program on all of them if we want to, etc. So I can't imagine when someone says to me, my students don't have computers. I mean, yeah, so some of my students don't have computers at home or don't have ADSL or whatever, but at school we have everything. So I make sure that they use the language lab. I make sure that they know how to use the language lab. That's why I was saying I prefer using rather than photocopying, also because photocopying is a real big problem in our high schools. It means that students have to buy a photocopy card. They only get X amount of photocopy sheets per year, and if they use it for maths and they use it for history and whatever, then when it comes to languages and we get them to have to, you know, photocopy using their cards, it just becomes a mess. That's why I don't like paper anymore. If they have a textbook, that's good. The rest I like to do online. So that's why I was saying I think that, Carol, if you could look at doing interactive worksheets online, that would be tremendous for me.
Oh, okay. Now, thank you, Neves, for helping me catch up with it. But okay, Carol was saying something.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull Madeira in this time to comment in the side, and it ties in nicely with what Neves has just said, because he said, this is Madeira, I think it's time that the language learning got out of the lab and embrace more portable solutions. And I think that's quite a valid point where it's supported. Because obviously there are some places like the High College of Technology in Dubai where they've gone completely paperless and they've got loads of technology. But then I also know of a school in Taichung, which is in Taiwan, and they haven't got anything. There's no computer lab. The teacher doesn't have Wi-Fi available except in the staff room, and so the students basically can only get on a normal mobile phone or pay for their provider to give them internet access through the phone. So it's a very, very broad playing field, but I think Medea makes a good point about using technology all over. And I guess Italy, I'm guessing a lot of the students have gotten a lot of access to Wi-Fi, and if they're older teens, they're probably online all the time, I would guess.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Nevis, for helping me catch up. What happened at a certain moment is maybe you were a little concerned with my expression. I was focused typing, and I had to turn off the devices because somebody here at the office was asking me a question. Now that I've caught up, I can contribute by saying, I mean, both teachers and students are interested in videos, and having interactive worksheets that have a game-like drop-down menus are something very good. What happens is not their interest in educational technology, but as I typed in the chat box, is the IT infrastructure. Some schools, as Mundi very well points out, only have technology in the Holy of Holies laboratory, which does nothing or makes very little contribution to the English class itself. I mean, it serves it very, very poorly. Bringing their own devices helps, and the need for keeping some PDF to a good extent stems from the bandwidth. I mean, people would like to use more video or more interaction or more games, but the point is that Wi-Fi is not always available, or ISP providers may have some interruptions every once in a while. This is what happens when you cater to a global audience. And I understand that you people have your different people doing research on what things are like in every region in the world, so you can accommodate everybody's needs and obstacles.
Yeah, I think Nevis has made a good point. Bringing your own device is a hope, I think, for many teachers for the future, because then once we're connected by the cloud, at least we get around that. I'm conscious of time, so I hope you don't mind if I indulge in one more question, which was, have any of you been on Macmillan English to look for anything connected to life skills? Because we felt when we set up the site that we were just putting things into categories, and now we're thinking about redesigning it. So a question is about really Macmillan English in general, but rather specifically about the life skills. Would it, if we reorganized it into categories that were more searchable, so whether it was actually the 4 skills or by level or by the life skill itself, or would that be more helpful? Have you been on to Macmillan English, and have you found it good or bad, or what's your experience been?
Definitely. I've heard the level topic hovering around throughout the not only this Hangout, but the last week's attempt of a Hangout. And perhaps having a matrix like One Stop English and filters like One Stop English on that link of Macmillan English webs for life skills, so that people can take their criteria. If it's age group, if it's English level, or maybe a life skills categories you've mentioned, Carol, a language area, if they like more for vocabulary or grammar or pronunciation, language skill, also the resource type, if it is video, if it is a Flash or HTML5 interactive game, or a PDF, and the different kinds of activity, if it is a lesson, if it is a paper, if it is a game, if it is an interview. Those filters are necessary.
Okay, those filters might be necessary. We might not be able to do all of them because that's a lot of filters. But has anybody else got a comment? I've seen Nevis has said you agree with level.
Or tags. If not filters, tags.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Andre. Sarah, or Mudir, have you got any comment back on that one?
Yeah, I think the filters, like Andrea said, because it's already on One Stop English, I think you can choose your level, choose your subject, choose your age, etc., choose your skill. That works the best, because then if you're looking for something on a certain topic, you can find that. If you're looking for something at a certain age or a certain level, you can find that.
Okay. And Mudir, I guess you're typing because your head's down, so we'll just give you a second to finish typing what you want to say.
Suspense.
Mudir says, I've just taken a look at the website and I find it well designed and helpful. I'm sure it will grow with time to meet the needs of all the teachers. Thank you very much, Mudir. That's lovely to hear. Hopefully it'll be even better for next year. So I've gone through the sort of topics. I'm going to throw the floor open because apparently this is one of the things you do on Google Hangouts, even though, like you, Sarah, this is only actually the second one I've done. So anything you want to say, discuss, ask, raise about life skills, the floor is yours. We're now going to sit here in silence for 10 minutes.
This is your opportunity, guys. You might not get this chance again with Carol.
Say it now or hold your peace forever.
Grab it with both hands.
I'm just surprised at so few people, because I was expecting more like the webinars they do. Also, Macmillan does webinar. I was expecting to be more like that, so I wasn't expecting. I just.
And we've put you on the spot.
Exactly on the spot. It's not what I was expecting as well.
But do you like the webinar, Sarah?
Yeah, last year I saw a lot of webinars. This year I've been busier, so I've had less time, but I got a lot of out of last year's ones. Yeah.
They're all online.
Yeah.
The archives.
That's correct.
We would say that life skills can become a whole cross-media phenomenon in Macmillan, because there may be a couple of webinars about it, plus guidelines, plus games, plus reorganizing the very good link that you have on the site, so that you can add a couple of helps, and in the variety of resources. Just a couple of things. One would be perhaps everybody was talking about, and Carol was proposing academic articles. Could they be with a flair, maybe academic articles stemming from somebody in a video or in a webinar, or academic articles with possible discussion questions and activities after them? It is not the usual format, but why not thinking of doing things a little differently? Infographics are great, and teachers and students do follow infographics mostly on Pinterest. I don't know what your standards and practices would be to open an account not only for life skills infographics, but also for any other infographic from Macmillan on that platform.
Good idea.
It's funny because actually Pinterest is one of the things that came up with a suggestion, and one of the things looking at is how accessible that is to all sorts of different countries. Because as you know, we have some users in countries that have very limited access to various things. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. So that's Pinterest. Henry, that's something you're going to be looking at this week.
Intray, yeah.
I use Pinterest too. I get my students. I create a Pinterest page. And get my students to pin on their the articles that they go for. Like if I give them a topic to look for, and I get them to pin on the articles, and then we use them as discussion topics. I think, going back just quickly to the assessment of life skills, what I'd like to see is, because when we talk about grammar skills and the 4 skills, they're easy to actually mark or assess. But when we talk about life skills, it's so difficult because we need to understand where our students are coming from. So how can you say to them that, you know, maybe their impression of, I don't know, subculture or cultural differences is wrong if it's different to ours? So, or how do we assess it? I'd like to see maybe how I look at assessing it is I get the students to come back to me with a presentation of what they've learned and put maybe like either use a what's called PowerPoint presentation or use a Prezi or something like that. Come back to me and show me or talk to me about it. Stand up in front of the classroom and tell maybe in 2 or 3 or set up a debate forum. And that way then I can assess if they are using their language skills to get their life skills message across. Does that sound like a good idea?
It does.
Mm.
So I'm just writing.
Go ahead.
Good idea, yeah.
Okay. And Andre's written, I use ABC, aggregate, bookmark, curate, style, colleague, style. Colleagues, students, and I open and share Pinterest boards and add our graphs, all those by others. I think that's the advantage of Pinterest, isn't it? You can bring together a lot of things which may appear random if you put them into anything else, but on Pinterest it sort of works because you can see somebody's mind map.
Exactly.
Anything else? Mudir, have you got anything you'd like to add? You don't have to.
I think Mundir is wondering where he's going to buy the next mic from.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd like to perhaps have a look at preparing a lesson again and maybe putting it together and sending it to you, Carol, to show you how I put a lesson together using the material from the life skills. So would that take up too much of your time to look at?
No, that would be wonderful. And one of the things I'm really hoping we might get from the hundreds of thousands of people who are using life skills is some people to share their lessons back with us, because that A, would give me more inspiration. I keep getting a bit short of ideas occasionally, and B, I think it's just nice that it becomes more cumulative than just the stuff that I put out there. So Neves, I'd be very, very happy to do that.
Okay, we'll do.
Sarah, and my dear, and everybody else, anybody else who might be listening, just send them in. That'd be lovely.
I just wanted to say something to Sarah before you said that there weren't many people today. Well, that's probably because last week there were so many people waiting to get on, and there was a long list of people apparently trying to get on, but there were problems with Google. So this week, probably the message didn't get out as much as it did last week. For last week's one, that could be the reason. But there were a lot more people last week hanging in the sidelines that we didn't get back today, which is a shame.
Yeah. But it's been a very nice, intimate hangout, I think.
Yes.
Had a lot of useful ideas exchanged so far. Any last thoughts from anybody?
I just wanted to say that I got a message just before this morning, I think, and it was postponed to another day.
That was, yeah, because that will have been from last week, where we had a bit of a disaster with Google not letting people in. So we and it sent you it today. Yeah, it can be a bit temperamental sometimes, the messaging system on here. So yeah, these hangouts we will be trying to do more of throughout the rest of this year and into next year, and we'll obviously try and look at maybe making it a bit easier for you guys to join, because like I was saying, it's a shame to have people who can't access the room, of course. So you can look at an email or something like that, which will make it a lot less stress-free for you all.
Sounds like fun.
Okay, Henry and I are about to go home and face the horrors of London Underground. It's sweaty, it's hot, it's packed, and it takes me over an hour. So that'll be a delight. Can I just say to Sarah, I can't believe you're sitting there in a sun top with the sun bursting through the windows on you. I'm so jealous right now.
It's this year as well. It's really bad year.
It looks glorious on the thing. I'm sat in a room with no natural light. Neves, it's lovely to see you and to have spoken to you today. I'm so pleased that you managed to get online. My dear, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry you had to type all the time. It's a beautiful country, is Morocco. I have been there, Italy as well. But it's lovely that you could join us. And all the way from Venezuela, Andre, what time is it in the day there?
Okay, and now it's 10 to 12 here in Venezuela.
Okay, well, enjoy your lunch. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, lunch. I'm guessing it's lunchtime, not the middle of the night.
Get to bed, Andre. Get to bed.
Thank you, Henry, for setting all this up and sending out the thing and last week's patience with the rather erratic thing. It's been smashing to talk to you all. I noticed that Henry's put my email address in the text chat. It's carol.higho@macmillan.com. What I'll do is I'll follow up on this, and once I've got together some ideas, if you're happy, I'll contact the four of you with what we're planning to do for next year. You get a little sneak preview, and you can feed back to me. If you love it, great. If you hate it, tell me, and then we'll put the wheels into motion and get the year planned out, so you can have some direct content on what goes on. All right?
Great.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. You've been great. It's been emotional. On a final point as well, I've been asked by a colleague to remind you about our one-stop English IATEFL scholarship, which closes for applications tomorrow. So you don't have much time, but in case you're interested in having an all-expenses-paid trip to IATEFL in Manchester next year, then please check out the link I've just shared with you, and you can find out more that way. A bit last minute, I know, but if you've got time on your hands today, then we'd love to see your applications. So that's the page you need to visit anyway. So that's my quick little bit at the end there. I just needed to squeeze in. So thanks again for all coming today. We'll keep in touch. It's been brilliant to have you here, and I know Carol really appreciated the feedback you've given her and the ideas you've shared. And we will be keeping in contact because we're going to be using a lot of this stuff that you've suggested today. Yes. And it won't end here. You'll be hearing more from us soon. Okay, thanks again for coming. I'm going to end the broadcast now, and we'll see each other all again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.